Olivia both to do screen sharing, please? Thank you. Well, let's begin. Welcome. Happy Earth Day in a couple days early. My name is Julie Payne Britton, and I am so happy to be here with all of you today. I am a local psychotherapist. I'm also a seminarian at Chicago Theological Seminary, and I've had the great privilege of being in worship with you all once a month for the last couple of years. I am absolutely delighted that today we are being led by my friend Olivia Kamil Smarr. This is such a privilege for us, and I want to introduce you to her. She is a Black queer womanist mystic. She's a public theologian and a movement artist. She explores, challenges, and creates innovative ways of spiritual engagement in this unique societal moment, conjuring revolution, power, magic, and passion through movement and theology. Isn't that cool? I just think that's so cool. Olivia's work views the body itself as divine and holy, embracing the connection between sensuality and spirituality. She centers those with disabilities, chronic illness, and survivors of trauma, including religious trauma, in her work. She's got an undergraduate degree from Stanford University and is soon to be a graduate of Chicago Theological Seminary, where she studies the intersections between mysticism and womanist theology. And I feel so lucky to call Olivia my friend, and I feel so happy that we all get to witness her ministry today. So I welcome you, Olivia.
Thank you, Julie. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so happy to be here with you all this morning. As you know, Julie is amazing. She is so incredible and kind and powerful and gifted. And so I was just incredibly happy when she thought of me to come and spend time with you all this morning. And when she recognized the spiritual gifts that I have and the spiritual leaning that I have, and the type of lens that I bring to the discussions I have around divinity. So very, very happy to be with you all this morning.
So let us jump into what we call service, worship. I want to welcome you all to this Earth Day worship service. Like so many days, the day holds wonder and sorrow. Earth Day was first celebrated on April 22nd in 1970, when I was a mere 2 years old, as a day to honor the earth and to participate in environmental teachings. My little dog wants to emphasize this point. Since then, the environmental movement has grown in this country, and environmental awareness permeates much of our society. But at the same time, the environmental problems we face have grown, as we all know, as climate change, which had already begun in 1970 but was barely recognized, has had deeper and graver impacts on the earth, her people, and her creatures. As human consumption and population expands unchecked, even in the face of COVID, we're witnessing environmental devastation and environmental racism at unprecedented rates. There are promising signs. Alongside these problems, people are working towards change all over the world. We lift and celebrate the many successes, including the ones brought about in part by people in this congregation. Today, we join together to hold our hope and our pain, to honor the earth, and to recognize how deeply our relationship with the earth, our work for environmental justice, and anti-white supremacy is all intertwined with all of our spiritualities. Of course, this is not the work of one day. Nevertheless, today we honor Earth and all our human and other than human companions. So come, let us worship. I'd like to invite you to settle in, maybe close your eyes for a moment. Let yourself ground down into this virtual, safe, and welcoming space. Breathe yourself into your body, into this room, into this community. Let yourself feel the earth below you, holding the vessel that holds you in your home. Feel the skies above you, even through the roof above your head. Feel yourself connected, perfectly placed between the center of the earth and the center of the skies. You are held here. And here there is breath and power. Let us worship. I invite you to settle in. We're going to watch and listen and have a Visio Divina experience. So as you watch and listen, I invite you to just lean in to life and to let that life take hold of your hearts. And I invite you to sing with me with your computer on mute, of course, for the beauty of the earth.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of here and nigh, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of human care, sibling, cousin, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
And now, if you have a candle nearby that you would like to light, I encourage you to do so. And if not, your light joins my light here and the light of all the rest of us who do have a burning flame. We, Olivia and I, will read this together, and we invite you to read along at home.
To bring new life to the land, to restore the waters, to refresh the air.
We join with the earth and with each other.
To renew the forests, to care for the plants, to protect the creatures.
We join with the earth and with each other.
To celebrate the seas, to rejoice in the sunlight, to sing the song of the stars.
We join with the earth and with each other.
To recall our destiny, to renew our spirits, to reinvigorate our bodies.
We join with the earth and with each other.
To recreate the interconnected community, to promote justice and peace. To remember all of Earth's people and creatures, especially those who impacted by human beings, greed, and climate change.
We join with the earth and with each other. We join together as many and diverse expressions of one loving mystery for the healing of the earth and the renewal of all life.
May it be so.
And so it is. This is the time in our morning where we lift up the joys and the concerns of all who need to be held in community. So I invite you, if you have a joy to share, or a concern, or a source of pain to share, or if you'd like to light a virtual candle for yourself or for another, now is the time to speak forward. And I encourage you to unmute yourself and let us hold this all we need. Roy.
I have a I have a concern to share and a joy. Yesterday, my longtime friend and I spent in the Catholic Church in Orange attending the funeral service for her sister who died in December. As many of you may know, the high service in the Catholic Church for funeral is quite extensive and involves considerable reassurance to the gathered people that the departed soul is just doing just fine now. So that's the emphasis that I want to talk about very briefly. Also, it was a time for the family to gather and to meet each other in ways that they have not for quite some time. So it was a joining and getting used to each other and getting acquainted event. And so I was very much appreciated being able to participate with the family. And although it was a solemn occasion, a great deal of good has come for it. Thank you very much.
Indeed. What a blessing. Thank you for sharing that, Roy. We will hold all that with you. Anyone else have a joy or a concern to lift?
No, it is. Hi, Julie.
Karen, go ahead.
Hi. You have to excuse me. I had mouth surgery last week, so I'm just recovering from that. But what I'm asking for is some guidance and some prayers and healing for my daughter, Melissa, who I know you know. She's in Montana, living on a mountaintop, very remote, very foreign to her. And she feels a need to get back here to where her family is. And this has to figure out how to do that. So I guess we're just asking that we all hold her in our heart and send her some healing.
Yes.
I guess a little to my mouth too.
Yes, let us send our love and healing energy towards Karen. It's such a hard thing when there's something awry with one's mouth. We take it for granted until it's in big trouble, and then we can't take it for granted anymore.
And I don't have a front tooth for about 3 months, waiting for an implant, so I smile and like that.
May that 3 months pass quickly.
I can report to you that implants can be a huge success, and I expect you'll have that too. Thank you.
I know. I have 2 others.
And Russ is showing you his missing tooth.
Yeah.
Well, let us lift and hold Melissa, that she may find her way home, and that until that time, and even then, that she be surrounded with love and know herself to be so that she can pull on the strength of all that holds her. Thank you. Rob.
Hi, Julie. I'd like to say prayers of concern and thankfully also of joy. My daughter Jazz continues to struggle with a chronic illness, but she's really finding some hope in a good relationship and in a series of classes that she's been doing. And I'm just really proud of her persistence and the way she manages to stay positive. I also recently shared that my sister Wendy has breast cancer, and it was her birthday last week, and her surgery is coming up on the 20th. She's very much in my heart, and I feel joy that she's got the luxury of being able to get good medical care, and feels really hopeful that she's got just the right people.
Thank you, Rob. Yes, let us all hold Jazz, and let us celebrate Jazz's spark of life, that she's coming into herself more and more. Let us also hold all those who are living with chronic illness. That is a challenge and a half. And those who are facing cancer and living with cancer, in particular Wendy, as she goes into the next steps of her care and treatment. Let us hold all of this. Annette, I saw your hand. Annette, you're muted still.
I'm very grateful for my daughter, Robbie Ann, today because she is hosting a party for my sisters and brothers. And it's our first time together. Everyone's been really careful and we haven't seen each other. And we really are used to big family gatherings. So today is particularly joyful that we've all got our shots and we can get together outdoors. We're going to be careful, but it's going to be really joyful. So I'm grateful for my daughter because she always gives so much to all of us.
Yes. Thank you, Annette. Yes, let us all lift your daughter. Tell us her name again.
Robbie Ann.
Robbie Ann. Oh, what a beautiful name.
Robbie Ann.
And let us also give great thanks that the vaccine is becoming increasingly available and that more and more of us are vaccinated and that the world is opening up again. What a wonderful thing that we can actually be in person together.
Yeah.
Let us all celebrate that for sure. Gareth, I see you've got a raised hand. And then Gary after Gareth.
Yeah, I just filed my taxes. I waited a few years to actually get that done. So I'd like to light a candle of joy for having completed that task. Additionally, inside of that task, I've had this back and forth thing with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, all stemming from a event in Northampton. And the short version of that is the taxes are kind of an acknowledgement of that, and hopefully it'll be the final pieces in having dealt with all of this turmoil and substance for the past 5 or so years with the Commonwealth. And so hopefully it's a good response is what we're looking at.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It is an incredible triumph to get something like taxes done, especially after a year, when it's been a long, complicated process with a lot attached to it. May that outcome be exactly what you need, Gareth. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I just wanted to add that this is a filing of taxes because of a failure of a criminal justice system, which is reflected throughout, America today. But this is just a different avenue that I took, excuse me, to try to bring equity to what seems to be an unsolvable system of disenfranchisement.
You are preaching. That is absolutely right. So let us all take a moment and let us hold the broken, unjust criminal justice system, which is the criminal injustice system. And let us also hold all of those who are working with all of their power and their might to bring about change. May that be so. Thank you. Gary, I saw your hand.
Well, first of all, a small joy, or maybe a large one. I got my second jab this week. So feeling good about that. Although I'm not changing anything about what I'm doing yet. And a concern, lighting a candle for my son and father of my 3 and a plus 3.5-year-old grandchild and the son's mom. They have not been together for probably 3 years. And it's been up and down, and they're at a particularly challenging point where they're not even speaking right now. So thinking of my granddaughter, Irie, and hoping that they're able to keep her out of this as much as possible. And I think they are trying to do that while they navigate not being able to communicate with each other.
Thank you. Yes. So let us hold them, in particular, your son and his former partner and your granddaughter. And let us also hold all of those who are dealing with family conflict and difficulty communicating and difficulty building bridges across difference or pain or brokenness. in this world, in this moment of time, I think that is particularly hard to navigate. So let us send all of those who are dealing with difficult family dynamics strength and patience and persistence.
Mm.
And I wanna say to Gareth, I lift that you did preach. I think that's fantastic. So I do not accept that apology that's in the chat. I would like to lift all of the animals who cross paths with human beings in ways that are in which the animals lose that equation. I also want to lift all of the human beings who are mostly Black and brown people who are impacted by environmental racism with unequal distribution of toxic waste sites and rising seawaters. I want to lift the earth itself, which is struggling under our heavy footprint. So let us lift all those who are vulnerable because of human greed. Kate.
I want to say that my heart is full. I've got, we had a calf on April 15th. So now we have Coco and Pip. They're out in Heath. And so that's my son's family. And they're living on my daughter's land, or the animals are living on my daughter's land. My daughter has this morning, as of this morning now, 10 new sheep. Some of them are pregnant ewes. And it just is, mud and milk and shit and all that stuff. And also I want to thank Mel for coming out to the top of the hill in Heath to give advice and support to these young farmers.
Oh, that is so
Thanks,
exciting.
Mel.
What a wonderful thing. Well, let us give thanks for the new life, in particular, new baby calf and new sheep. That does all of our Western Massachusetts hearts good, doesn't it? This is one of the things about being here. And we give thanks for friends and for the sharing of resources within our community. That is a way to give and receive love. So we give thanks for Mel's wisdom and ability to share that too. I see Sandra has raised a hand.
Hi, I just want to lift up Rocky Purnham. He started a Caring Bridge page and he's meeting with his surgeon this week to get a prognosis on his pancreatic cancer.
Thank you. Yes. If you are looking at your screen and you're not seeing Rocky's sweet face right now, I encourage you to move it over so that you can see him. And let us all together just beam our love and strength and healing energy to Rocky. And particularly we send courage for the coming week. And we also continue to send our love and energy to Rocky's wife, Christina. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else want to light a candle or, Pam. Pam, you're muted still there.
Yeah. So I, in contrast, in a way, I want to hold up the fact that the state of Massachusetts just passed the most amazing, fabulous environmental law called Next Generation Climate Law. 26 pages. If you read this thing, I've read it over. Look at the darn thing. It's all covered with notes. It's just mind-blowing, and it includes an enormous section on equity, which is the defense of environmental justice communities. And 5.6 gigawatts of offshore wind and solar similarly, and electric cars. And I mean, the list just goes on and on. So I've been trying to summarize it in an outline. It's the best environmental law in the country.
Wow.
Yay, Earth Day.
Yes. Oh, and we lift you and your work in being part of the whole network that has pushed this forward over and over, slowly, a little at a time.
Yes.
And here it is.
Very small, very modest, but everybody has put an oar in that water. And so thanks to everybody who's helped. And that has been many people.
That is great. That's something to be really happy about. Yes. So let us send appreciation to our governor. Whatever else we think of him, he did good here. Annie.
Okay, this message goes out to the, I don't know how to get back in the picture. All the peacekeepers and the people that do go good every day and feel like, are we making a difference? Well, we just saw a big difference here that Pam was reading, but how about the small little things that we do? Do we actually feel like it's moving in the right direction? So yesterday I was in the food line there down at Stone Soup. This isn't about me. I'm just saying, all the people that do something kind for somebody. And a young man came up, he said, I noticed your truck there. I wanted to thank you for saving my life. And I said, saving your life. I said, what did I do? And I said, what's your name? He goes, Ben. I said, oh, I remember. He was living in the woods. Somebody stole all of his underwear. And I said, well, here, get in the truck. I'll give you a ride. Where are you going? He said, to this motel at the Circle, in Greenfield. And I said, stole all your underwear? So I said, so what do you wear? Like whitey tighties or boxers? He says, boxers. I said, okay. So I pulled into BJ's. What size? Large. So I went in, gave him the underwear, and he said, oh, the first thing I'm going to do when I get home is take a shower and put some underwear on. So I totally forgot about it. And there it came up. So it's like the guy or the person that walks on the seashore and picks up a starfish and puts it in the water. And somebody said, well, what good do you think that's going to do? You know, what difference? And they go, made a difference to that one. So for all of us, sometimes we see so much challenge and negativity, shooting and violence. We see that, but each kind little thing that we do for humanity, what big or small, makes a difference. So I want to put that out to everybody who's working for peace and doing good in the world. So.
Absolutely, Annie, you said that so beautifully and so powerfully. Let us lift kindness and let us lift all the small things that we do. And let us remember that it is within our power, each one of us, to make the world better moment by moment by moment. I want to respond to all of these, all that has been lifted by listening and watching this lovely song that is put forward by the First UU of Brooklyn. I am going to share my screen and play this for you. And I encourage you to sing along. It's a very simple chorus. What I want to say is that the words, well, you'll get them because it's very simple, but the last refrain is I'll hold my peoples up. And in that moment, I encourage you to think of the word peoples really broadly. So think of all that you want to lift up, people of human being persuasion and people of non-human being persuasions.
My sister up, she is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. brother up, he is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not heavy. If I don't lift him up, I will fall down. I'm gonna lift my people up, they are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my people up, they are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my people up, they are not heavy. If I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, I will fall down. If I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, I will fall down.
Yeah. And now I turn this to Olivia.
Thank you, Julie. And thank you, everyone. Again, so happy to be here. Is there a hand? I don't want to cut anyone off. Julie, do you see a hand?
I don't see a hand.
Oh, okay.
If someone did have a hand, then I encourage you to put in the chat and we'll come back.
So what I wanted to talk about today is the idea of spirit in the dark. We're going to start with some readings. I'm bringing some things from my own spiritual tradition into the service because that's who I am. That's my spiritual foundation. So in my tradition, what typically happens in sermons is that, or in services, is there's the readings of scripture before the sermon, and there's the readings of the scripture, and then there's the sermonic selection, and then there's the sermon. So I want to follow that same pattern. So there are two readings for today. You are welcome to read along. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness God called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Second reading. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. So as you think about these readings, allow them to seep into your spirit. You might be familiar with them. You might not be. There's a song that I want us to listen to reflect, to kind of set the tone for what this experience will be like. The song is a not spiritual, song is a spiritual song, but it would be considered secular because it's not in the, like gospel or a spiritual genre, but the song is Spirit in the Dark by Aretha Franklin. The reason why I love this song is because it breaks down the idea of spirit and takes it out of a religious context and puts it into a human context of what it means for the spirit to move as a human being, regardless of trying to put it in whatever type of box you want it to be in, or say spirit has to be related to God, or spirit has to be related to this. So the song talks about the spirit in the dark, but it doesn't necessarily explain what that spirit is. It just explains what the spirit makes you want to do. So let's listen to that for a little bit. I love that song. I love that song for so long, for the exact reason that it talks about spirit without mentioning Jesus. I just think that's very cool. I grew up in a Christian context where religion is what spirituality is, and they're like all one and the same. So, I come from this background where spirit has to be explicitly religious. So in the work that I do now, I do my best to separate that a little bit, to create space for all of our spiritual nature outside of the context of organized religion. So if you were hearing the reading and you thought it was familiar, it's because if you come from a Christian tradition, you might recognize that those are two scriptures. And the first one is one of the two creation stories in Genesis. And the second one is the opening to the Gospel of John. And both of those scriptures revolve around the idea of creating, of initiating, of incarnating divine energy into something made manifest on earth. They also each touch on the ideas of light and darkness and of separating light from darkness. Julie, if you could go back to the scripture slide.
Sure.
That would be wonderful, thank you. So there are a few lines that I wanna pay special attention to. So the reading on the left is the one from Genesis. The words that I wanted to highlight, the earth was a formless void and darkness covered the face of the deep. And then later on, God says, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. And then in the second reading from the Gospel of John, what has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Julie, could you stop screen sharing for right now, please? Thank you. We see time and time again in religion and society and our everyday rhetoric how darkness and light are considered to be opposites, always contrasting one another. And so typically how this goes is darkness represents evil and danger, and there's a necessity for light to be the force that repels the darkness. We associate light with divinity, with grace, with healing. And although there's nothing inherently about light being good, when we live in a society that considers light to be good and darkness to be bad, but also considers white to be good and Black to be bad, then clearly there are some ethical issues that arise. If you've been paying attention to literally anything that has ever happened in this country, or even the last week, you know that it has been an extremely difficult time for Black people, for anyone whose skin isn't light enough, for anyone with any hint of darkness to them. This spiritual association of light with dark, of light with good and dark with bad, does not affirm the divinity of people like me. But going back to the creation stories, the beauty in these stories is is not that light and dark work. It's not that light was created. So I have, once again, very non-traditional background. I have a very non-traditional like interpretation of these scriptures, and I kind of like to be a little subversive and offer like different interpretations that might make some people mad. So,
Yes.
so brief clarifier there. But going back to the scriptures, you know, we interpret scripture in so many ways. We interpret it in a way that will bring meaning to our own life. And there are lots of people who read the creation stories and see the miracle being the light, or see the miracle being that we were created. But for me, the miracle in these creation stories, the beauty, isn't that God created light or that God created something to outshine the darkness. The beauty is that God created both light and darkness. Yeah. The beauty is that both are divine and that they all come from this divine source. And although we may have over time extrapolated our own meanings and symbolism and association of what lightness and darkness mean, they both come from the same divine origin. They were created in the same moment, not as forces to oppose one another, but as entities that exist together. The darkness and light need each other in order to be distinct from one another. One can't exist without the other. And because they each have divine origin, one is not more important than the other. This perspective on nature and on creation is critical to our understanding of ourselves in this moment. I get frustrated when I see how in so many parts of our lives, we see ourselves as separate from the world. We see ourselves as separate from, like completely separate from the land that we live on and the air that we breathe and the nature that we encounter. We even see ourselves separate in our own existence, which doesn't make any sense to me. We speak of the mind, the body, and the spirit as if it's not all the same thing. We have such a disembodied understanding of our own existence, not just as people, but as a part of this cosmological context. We think that we're humans, so we are the peak of creation and we are meant to dominate over all these other species without realizing that we all come from the same divine origin. And divinity doesn't have a ranking. You can't say that one thing is more divine than the other thing. That's not how it works.
Right.
But we try to, you know, like make things make sense in our own head in a way that makes us feel good and makes us feel important. But in doing so, we neglect and diminish the divinity that exists in everything, not just in what we want it to be. Since we all come from the same divine origin, whether it be darkness, light, plants, dirt, sky, air, water, animals, and anything that has ever been created by the creator, whoever you may think that creator is, we're all birthed out of a divine moment. And we are all manifestations of that divine. And we are repeated incarnations of the divine. And every single moment in history, every single thing that is created is the narrative of creation repeating itself over and over again, rewriting itself over and over again, and continuing this beautiful history of past and present and future, and whatever goes beyond that, of divinity. We exist in a timeline of divinity. All of our existence We live in a very human-centric world. Typically, we think linearly, as if time has a specific beginning and a specific end. And we believe that somehow humans are entirely capable of understanding everything about the beginning as if there was even a beginning. And we think that we're capable of understanding everything there might be about an ending if there was an ending. But what if we didn't put our own human constraints on what time has to look like, and what creation has to look like, and what the narrative of existence has to look like? What if we didn't try to explain things in a way that makes sense to us? What if we didn't project our own human ideas and conceptions onto creation? What if we didn't see light and dark in a way that makes sense in our own context? What if we didn't see time as something that starts and ends, but rather as a living force that is constantly in the process of being regenerated? How would that mind shift change the way that we see ourselves in relationship with the Creator and with the creation? How transformative would it be if we decentered ourselves in this story? If we read these creation stories and understood these creation stories not as our way to explain how we were created, but as one perspective, one way to look at the existence of everything there is, acknowledging that we are not capable of fully understanding everything there is. When we stop trying to put these limits on what spirituality and divinity are, we realize that we've constructed something that can be so restrictive, because we're all humans. And I believe that we all have spirits. But at the same time, we project our different life experiences onto the spiritual practices and the spiritual beliefs that we have, and the doctrine that is created, and what we write and how we interpret things, and all of that. And it is impossible to separate bias from your thinking. And we've come to an understanding of light and dark that uncoincidentally aligns with the history of racism.
Yes.
It's not a mistake. It's not a coincidence that light is good and dark is bad, and white is good and black is bad. That's not a coincidence.
Right.
That happened intentionally. That was constructed. And if we want to move forward in a way that views ecology, divinity, and embraces an ethical way of living, if we want to move forward in a life that is truly just, we can't ignore that context, that subcontext of light and dark in a spiritual sense. So what I want to leave with you all is this affirmation that all aspects of creation are divine. The lightness and the darkness, all parts of this world that we live in. We are not the epitome of the divine. As wonderful as we are, as wonderful as you all are, you are not the end and beginning of what is good.
Yes.
The divinity that is in the world depends upon the existence of everything else. Yes. We are all interconnected.
Yes.
And so I want to end with a song. And the song once again, it's one of those spiritual songs that is not a spiritual song. The song touches on reincarnation. And I know a lot of people have a variety of thoughts about reincarnation. That's not really the main focus of the song that I want to call attention to. More so, I want you to think about how the singer sings about all these different parts of life and of creation, and of her explaining her time being these different creatures. And as you listen to her tell the story and present this image of what it's like to live as a variety of different forms of creation.
I'm sorry, that was a little accident there. That was what a rough ending.
No problem. Thank you, Julie. After that song, there's one just question I want to leave with you all. Reflecting on the sermon and the readings in the song, what if we lived our lives knowing that we would come back to the same world? And knowing that we could come back as any form of life in this world. How will that affect the way that we treat the world today, the way that we live in the world today, and the world that we create as we are living? So just want you to think about that. And I hope that, if anything, the sermon was thought-provoking and gave you a little something to think about, something to sit with. And I'm praying that it will be transformative for you in however way will benefit your spirit. So right now I'm going to do what in my tradition would be a benediction, except it's kind of my remix on it. It's like a very gender neutral, non-Christocentric benediction. Now into the divine spirit that is able to keep us falling and to present us faultless before your divine presence with exceeding joy. Guide us with your love and wisdom. Grant us the peace that only you can give. Grieve with us as we mourn our losses. Rejoice with us as we celebrate our blessings. Imbue us with your power. Hold us in your love. Wrap us in your peace. And now, may your grace, love, and liberation be with us, your people, henceforth, now, and forevermore. Amen and Ashe. Thank you.
May it be so. Well, this ends our worship together this morning. I want to usher my great thanks and love to Olivia for being this presence and this prophetic voice today. May we all indeed take this into where our spirits need to be and are becoming. You've really blessed us with your ministry today. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I turn it back to Dan.
Okay, well, really, thank you very much. And we have several people on YouTube watching right now. So I thank you for joining us. And I want to remind everybody, if you'd like to share some of the message this morning or all of the message this morning with people who weren't online with us today, it will be on the Franklin County Unitarian Universalists channel shortly after this. It usually takes an hour or two for them. I might have to clear a copyright or two or something like that. Sometimes they hit us for that. But that's it. I think I do have a couple of breakout rooms for people, and we stay here in the parish hall for a while. So I won't stop YouTube for, when you go to a breakout room, that's not on YouTube. When you stay here in the quote parish hall, it's here. So I'm going to open those rooms, and you can choose to go to them or talk to me if you can't see the little breakout rooms icon on your screen, usually it's down here at the bottom. For some people, you have to click on something on the other side, but I'll assign you if you wish. And of course, everybody's muted by default during the service. What's Olivia? When you graduate? Where are you going to go? I'm just curious.
I'm curious as well.
Yes. Well, we'll let the spirit decide.
How much longer where are you in the course of your studies, Olivia?
What is today, the 18th?
Uh-huh.
Graduation is on the 14th.
Oh, wow. Woo!
So just got to get through a few very long weeks, and then we'll be done.
Olivia, I wanted to thank you and also share a short story, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I was attending the University of Pennsylvania, a longer story is how this came about, but eventually I was the white sheep in the Black Studies department. And at first there were, reactions understandable of curiosity bordering on suspicion. And some people really were not particularly open to my being there. And one of the people who seemed to be the most circumspect was a professor, Harry Jones. And he was teaching a class called Introduction to African American Culture. And in one class, there was about 40 of us. And he told us he was going to play a song that he thought was a seminal song to the understanding of African American culture. And it was Aretha Franklin, Spirit in the Dark. And the minute I heard it, it moved me. And I had no idea this was happening until afterwards. But afterwards, Dr. Jones took me aside at the end of the class. And for the first time ever, he smiled. He said, "I think you're in the right place." I said, what do you mean? He said, "Well, there are only a few people who closed their eyes during that song, but there was only one person who started dancing in his chair." It's a pretty good indication to me that there may be reasons for you to be in my class. So anyway, it's been a sacred song ever since. So thanks for reminding me of that.
Thank you for sharing. It absolutely is a sacred song. I don't know how anyone can listen to it and not be moving at the end.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it, because she's singing about the divine being embodied through the spirit, making you want to dance, which I think is such a powerful aspect of divinity.
So tiny postscript, years later, I heard a live version. Maybe some of you have heard this, but at one point, Aretha is she trails off, you don't hear her, you think the song is about to end, and then all of a sudden, with a just blitheful cackle, she says something like, "I done discovered Ray Charles." And in the back of the stage, apparently, they've been hiding Ray Charles. And all of a sudden, he starts playing Spirit in the Dark on the piano. And it's just a really joyous moment.
Wow.
Good job.
That's amazing.
Are you a Chicago native, or did you just go there for seminary?
I have been to Chicago twice in my life. So the intention was to live in Chicago for seminary. Life happened, and CTS, our program, can be done virtually. So before the pandemic, you could do like a hybrid version. And so I did the first 2 years of my program online, and then I had planned to move to Chicago in December because it was the courses that I needed to graduate were on campus. And then the pandemic happened and they announced that we'd be doing everything online. So I've somehow managed to get a degree from a school in Chicago without ever having been in a classroom in Chicago. So
Wow.
yeah.
I'm curious about what you hope your ministry will look like.
I would love to do what I'm doing now, but for more people. What I really, really love is helping people understand and discover spirituality in different ways, and kind of giving people permission to liberate themselves spiritually. Because a lot of times we grow up with these ideas of what religion and what spirit and what the divine is supposed to be. So we have to spend so much time undoing all of that and like breaking out of that. And so I would love to help facilitate that process for people. But one of the main ways in which I do that is through movement. And so I do movement classes. And my intention over the next few months is to expand that, focusing specifically on people with disabilities, people with chronic illnesses, and anyone who would be considered like a non-mover or a non-dancer, because I'm very much into highlighting the importance of the body as a way to connect with divinity. But so many people have all these negative thoughts about their bodies because we live in a society that wants you to have negative thoughts about your bodies.
Good for business.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, lots more dance classes, movement workshops. Yeah, working with people. I do have a website. I do spiritual readings. If you are ever interested in like a spiritual consultation, you can go to my website. I do that as well. I like helping people on their spiritual journeys, in like a variety of different ways. So
Will you put your website in the chat?
I will. It's my name.
Is that where your movement classes are hosted?
Well,
Workspace.
in theory, they would be on the website. But right now they're on my Instagram page. But yes, I need to do a better job of updating the website. But yeah.
Olivia Kamil.
Yes.
And where are you physically located?
At the moment, I'm in Maryland, right outside of DC.
So a little bit of a commute for us up here. But maybe there is a way to do some online work. How cool that would be.
Oh yeah. I think that the pandemic has been like tragic in so many ways that have forced us to create new ways of engaging with people. And I think that those new ways of engaging with people are really important to sustain and like fine tune and really see how they can work for people. And so for me, even in teaching dance and literally everything that I've done spiritually related to my vocation the past year has been facilitated online. And because it's been facilitated online, there has been greater access to it. So people who have wanted to be involved in something like this have been able to because it's online. And as a dancer, as a movement artist, one of the biggest barriers to movement that people have is they feel self-conscious about being in a dance class. They don't have access to a dance studio. They don't like people looking at them. But when you teach movement classes online, you don't really have to worry about any of that. So people have more of the freedom to like actually fully be in themselves and like surrender to their bodies and really be vulnerable enough to engage with both their spirit and the body at the same time. So I kind of like it. I like doing things online.
We had a lesson on that basically because of the pandemic, which, like this morning, we had 4 or 5 people online that I don't recognize. And all, just so you know, we're out in a rural part that's underserved with digital stuff. I only had, for example, dial-up at my house until 3 years ago. So rural areas are very under interneted, but because of COVID and because of state subsidies to bring us the last mile of internet, all 3 of our churches now have internet. And it turns out that there were a lot of people who couldn't make it to church because of disability or needing to have an oxygen tank in one case and things like this. That once this is all over and we come back to these churches, in one case is several centuries old, and none is less than 100 years old, will have the infrastructure to, reach those people over the internet.
Yeah, I think the other thing that people aren't necessarily factoring into conversations at the moment, people as in like government officials and like other higher ups, is that I don't really think there is such a thing as post-pandemic, but there are a lot more disabled people now than there were a year ago. And so there's a need for more accommodations as well. There's going to be a need for more, like online engagement, because the devastating effects of the pandemic on people's health, people's bodies are different now. And there will be, like longstanding ramifications for that. And so we're going to need to continue to be in a state of creating ways to engage with people and meet them where they are, like literally, that spiritual term of like to meet someone where they are. We're going to have to continue to try to do that.
I'm going to have to take off, but good to be with you all.
Nice meeting you.
Are you up, Olivia, are you out by Silver Spring?
About 35 minutes from Silver Spring.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if you ever were at the Rock Hill Church.
Oh, no.
It's a beautiful place. And,
Really?
if you ever want to do an in-person, they have a lovely big parish hall for doing workshops.
Oh, nice. Rock Hill. Okay, cool.
Bye, everybody. Have a good week. Happy Earth Day.
Bye, Sandra.
Bye, Sandra.
Well, thanks for running the internet for the PowerPoint for us, Julie.
Oh, sure.
Are you here in Greenfield or out in the Cape right now?
No, I'm in Greenfield. I love this time of year. It's my favorite. And this is one time of year where it's really clear that being here is nicer than being at the beach, because we get the slow spring here and get to watch the leaves just slowly come into being. I just think it feels so full of spirit here. And I'm so sorry that I crashed the end of that powerful Deja Vu song, Olivia.
Oh no, it's fine. It just fades out. It was fine.
It's sort of the whole technology bit works great when it works, and then every now and again it's kind of shocking when it doesn't. But good, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Thanks, Julie and Olivia.
You bet, Lori. Thanks for being here today.
I felt like I was being trolled by life today, because I was talking about like light and darkness, and I typically wear black. Like I don't wear bright colors. Today a button popped on my black shirt, so then I had to wear this white one, which I'd never wear. Like I literally never wear white. I was like, wow, this is hilarious. And, I always have candles around me. So I brought my candles, and I was telling Julie last night, I was like, oh, I have candles all the time. Like you have to light a candle, sure, that'll be perfect. And so I grabbed my lighter today, and it like just did not work. So I was like struggling trying to light the candles. So not only did I could not wear my typical black representing darkness, but then I was literally in the dark because my lighter wouldn't work. And I didn't have any lights for my candles.
Well, we saw you. It looks like a gray sweater to us.
Yeah.
That's commenting that you're bridging the.
I had to try. I needed to.
With the gray by being neither black nor white.
There it is. Yep, there it is.
Years ago, I attended a Feldenkrais workshop, which sounds like it's sort of the kind of work you do that's integrating the body and the mind. Is that some of the techniques that you use, or?
I'm not familiar with that, but yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Yeah, are you familiar with
Hi, Ulysses.
Morning.
Hey, Ulysses. Are you familiar with the Alexander technique?
Yes, believe it or not, I am.
So what made me think of that was reference to Feldenkrais. Many practitioners of either of those like to say that they're very different. I do know somebody that does both and likes to see the commonalities in them and see how they kind of bridge. So you might find that Feldenkrais has some similar, if you ever look into it, similar ways of going about things.
Yeah, I just defended my thesis a few weeks ago, and my thesis is about embodied mysticism through movement. So very much like where I am currently is exploring what movement looks like when it is imbued with divine energy, but not putting a limit on what that divine energy is, or like what we would expect that movement to look like. Because there are, like, you know, spiritual dance forms where you look at it and you're like, oh, that's, you know, that's like liturgical dance, or that's, you're dancing in church, that's spiritual. But I'm more so interested in movement as a whole, not just dance. And then also outside of a religious context, and seeing what happens when divinity moves through bodies, through time and space without any limitations. And I think there's so many different ways to explore that, and like different techniques, and, you know, different groups of people and all that type of thing.
It's a particular interest of mine. I did look at your Instagram page, and I saw there were a lot of programs on there. None of them seem to have current dates. Is that, you're not doing any of those currently, or?
No, because I'm trying to graduate.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I just
yeah.
Just wanted to be sure I wasn't missing.
I'll be back.
I don't do Instagram much, but I clicked follow. I figured, you know, so try to remember to check it out.
Yeah, I'll probably teach some more classes probably next month. I am teaching at a conference. I'm presenting at a conference this weekend, which I will post. I will do the post on Instagram about that one. But pretty much all of my other programming is on hiatus, so I can make sure that I graduate.
That makes sense.
And then we'll pick things back up next month.
What's the conference, and what are you presenting on? Or what's the title of your presentation?
So the conference is presented by Harvard Graduate School of something, maybe public health, maybe not. But it's Cultivating Joy and Collective Restoration. And the conference is focused on women of color and exploring topics that help uplift collective pleasure and restoration. And I will be doing a panel about womanism and queer platonic intimacy. So I'll be doing the panel with my friend who is a sexual health educator and researcher. And we'll be talking about what is the title? Sister, You've Been on My Mind, which is a line from The Color Purple. So we're talking about divinity as seen between a relationship between two different Black women. And so in The Color Purple, if you're familiar with it, there's Celie, the main character, and there's Shug, and they have this relationship where they're friends, but they're not lovers, but they're intimate with each other, and their relationship doesn't really fit into the the societal lines of this is platonic, this is romantic, this is marriage, this is friendship. And so we're going to be talking about how their relationship, by transcending all of those boundaries, creates a liberating perspective on love and divinity that then creates a way for Black women to reimagine the divine in their own image. So.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I'm impressed that you have any bandwidth to do that in the context of trying to graduate.
I'm also impressed. These are all things that like I signed up for in February, and I was like, oh, everything will be fine. My thesis will be defended by then, like we'll be great. And things are not great. But we'll get through it.
I'd like to pass on just a reference to Strong Oak. Have you met Strong Oak? Is a Native American. She's a therapist by trade, or was the director of the local NELQUIT. What does it stand for? The New England. What is it?
Coalition of let's see, Women
Learning Center for Women in Transition.
Women in Transition. And she has created a thing called, oh dear, BEAR. What does it stand for? Anyway, they've got I took their 12-session course. I'm not a member of the team, but they have a team of people who do facilitated workshops for Indigenous people who've suffered through sexual abuse, but that it's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than sexual abuse. It's also restoration of community in tribal settings, but also in just community settings. And it's a really cool system. It's designed to shift the whole system as people contribute to it. It's a very cool system. Her name is Strong Oak. And maybe through Julie, I could get you the link.
Yeah, I'd be happy to pass that along afterwards. Definitely.
Have you met Strong Oak?
No.
She's a very active part of the Racial Justice Rising Network, and
Awesome.
I'll pass it on.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you would have a lot to share, is what I was thinking, Olivia. That this might be something that you would. I mean, she's also in a long-term relationship with Mary Whelan. So they're, a team.
Well, I don't want to abuse people's time. We can continue, but I don't want to feel people like have people feel like they have to stick around until everybody's gone.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Yes, thank you for grounding all of this and making it happen, Dan.
Yeah,
thank you all for being here. This has been such a rich day. I'm so glad that I'm so glad for all that moved through in this time. It's been really meaningful for me.
Yes, quite a change for God's frozen people.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
I will say, movement is not a Unitarian Universalist strong point. When we do the movement services and stuff like this, people a little awkward. We're a little more in our heads than most denominations typically. So movement is a good thing.
That's right. That sort of shows part of the direction that we all need to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Olivia.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you'll join again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
And I'll relay one YouTube message from Casey Overton. When you said make them mad, Casey says, make them mad, sis.
What?
So if that's a friend of yours, I thought I'd relay that. from the other chat.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody, and thanks for people on YouTube. And again, you can refer people to this. I'll, there'll be like a number. I'll put a number in there so that people can go to the sermon, and there might be a little editing has to happen, but it should be up by late this afternoon. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a